Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Get ready to dive deep into one of the most gripping legal battles of our time. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today we're unraveling the high-stakes drama surrounding one of the music industry's most enigmatic figures, Sean Diddy Combs. In a case that has captivated millions, the courtroom has become a battleground for fame, fortune, and the dark secrets that lurk beneath the glittering surface of celebrity life. As the gavel comes down, we'll explore the allegations, the testimonies, and the shocking twists that could change the course of Diddy's legacy forever. Was this case merely a clash of lifestyles or something much more sinister? With each episode, I will bring you exclusive insights, analysis, and witness testimony accounts that will leave you on the edge of your seat. So buckle up as we embark on this thrilling ride through the trial of the century, where the stakes are high, the drama is real, and the truth is anything but certain. This is the trial of Sean Combs. Let's get started. And welcome back to what is going to be one of the final episodes of the trial of Sean Combs. I'll tell you why I say that in just a second, but I need to give you a quick catch up on what happened in what was a abbreviated week in the Sean Combs trial. Brendan Paul testified about the demands of his job as one of Diddy's former assistants. He told jurors he once went without sleep for 3 days. He recalled being asked to buy thousands of dollars worth of drugs. He said that Diddy didn't take no for an answer and compared his staff assistants to the U.S. military's SEAL Team 6. Paul faced some cross-examination from Brian Steele, and during that cross, he agreed that Diddy's ex-girlfriend Jane did not seem hesitant or apprehensive before freak-offs. Paul said Jane appeared to be a willing participant in those sexual encounters, which contradicted her testimony to the prosecution. U.S. government prosecutors walked jurors through text messages from Cassie to Diddy. In one text, Ventura said she didn't deserve to be beaten by him. She was quoted as saying in that text, "That's not love, that's possession." And the defense again attempted to portray these freak-offs as consensual encounters, and they entered into evidence a March 2017 text message in which Cassie wrote, quote, "I love our freak-offs when we both want it." And I don't know if that helped them too much. That insinuates he was forcing her some of the times to do these freak-offs. So I don't know how much that actually helped the defense entering that into evidence, but we are back with the testimony for Monday, June 23rd. And big news before the jury was let in, as attorneys anticipated closing arguments would actually take place Thursday into Friday. So it looks like this is going to go to the jury this week. Why is that? And why am I so surprised? Well, I'll tell you one reason I'm shocked is because the defense also said they are not calling any witnesses. Now, the prosecution has called over 64 during this trial, the defense calling no one to the stand. That's shocking to me. You're telling me you don't have anybody that is willing to testify on behalf of Diddy, or that you could compel to testify on behalf of Diddy that could substantiate his claims, corroborate his story? No one. They're putting no one on the stand. Think about that. Blew my mind. They don't even have experts that they're calling to refute what the prosecution has said. So they're either very confident they don't need that, or they just don't have anybody that can refute it. But regardless, going to the jury this week. So I'll get into today's testimony, which was shorter than usual. And then after I cover the testimony, I'm going to bring you on a look back. So make sure you stay for the end of this one. Now, the last time that I left you, Joseph Cercilio, a special agent for Homeland Security Investigations, was on the stand. And if you'll remember, this guy was going through charts, and he confirmed that several sexually explicit videos showing Jane with other men were cited in that summary chart. He said the videos are collectively several hours long, and he said Sean Combs can be seen in the videos. The jury then viewed clips of the videos, and they were listening through headphones. Of course, the public and the press cannot see those videos. They are all under seal. And the jury watched at least 13 clips of sexually explicit videos recorded in November of 2021, December of 21, February of 22, August of 22, and October of 22. And in that run of footage, if you will, it was more than 12 minutes of total footage. The chart also cited several other explicit videos that the jury did not view, Cercilio said. He confirmed that about 50 explicit videos were recorded between December 17th and December 21st of 2021. 50 different videos. He walked the jury through another chart that he said mapped out the records surrounding a September 17th through 19th, 2023 trip that Jane took with Diddy to New York City. In that chart showed flight and hotel records for Jane and the entertainer known as Sly. Records showed hotel stays at the Trump International Hotel in Manhattan. The jury also saw records related to a September 24th through 26th, 2023 stay in Miami. Records showed the hotel was booked with a credit card held by Combs' travel manager, and round-trip flights for Jane and Sly were booked with that same card. Cercilio reviewed entries in another summary chart from September of 2023 when Jane met Diddy in New York. Cercilio and Comey read text messages exchanged around that time, many of which were previously read into the record during the witness testimony by the prosecution. Now, some of the text between Jane and Combs, in which she first said she wouldn't go to Manhattan because she knew he wanted a hotel night. We've already covered all that. I'm not going to cover that again. Now, in one thread on that summary chart, there was recounted a text between Combs and someone from Cowboys for Angels about hiring an escort. The jury then saw messages that Diddy sent to an entertainer from the Cowboys for Angels escort service, telling him when to arrive at the hotel. Hours later, an employee for Cowboys for Angels texted Combs saying he still needed to pay $600. Combs texted back, quote, "Laugh out loud, he couldn't even perform." The employee explained to Combs that he was paying for the man's time, not his performance, and Combs told the employee she should be nice to him, adding that he was a long-time customer. The jury then saw other texts between Jane and one of the Combs accusers and an entertainer called Sly, coordinating his arrival at the hotel. They also saw messages involving Brendan Paul, a former assistant for Combs, coordinating an IV drip for 3 people. The jury then saw more texts between Sean Combs and Christina Coram. Days later, this is in September of 2023, and Combs told Coram to keep someone named Chelsea at a Miami hotel and get a hotel suite at a different hotel for him and Jane. He told Coram that Chelsea would move from the hotel to his Miami residence after Jane left. And the chart also included a flight record booked by Combs' travel manager for Jane from Miami to Los Angeles. In more texts, Combs texted Jane asking if she wanted to see him and an entertainer called Paul. Combs later messaged Paul telling him to let him know when he was close. Now, in that time frame, Jane was also texting an entertainer called Sly about traveling to Los Angeles from Atlanta. Combs was messaging his travel manager about booking a flight and hotel for Sly, and Jane was then relaying that travel information to Sly. So right there, they're showing that Jane and Combs, they were in cahoots on this thing. The jury then saw several messages between Combs and Christina Coram in that same time frame, including messages in which he requested $5,000 cash, and she notified him that some baby oil had been dropped off. Cercilio said several explicit videos were taken during those days. Around that time, Jane sent Sly a Cash App payment, and a large amount of cash was deposited into one of his accounts. The jury was shown messages around November 14th of 2021 when Christina Coram booked a hotel in Los Angeles for Combs and Jane. Coram texted him when an assistant was there setting up the room. Later that day, Coram texted Combs, quote, "Hotel called, Paul coming up." Now, Paul is someone who Combs and Jane would pay to have sex with. On multiple occasions, they paid this guy during hotel nights, but he also worked with Combs as a trainer. Cercilio then reviewed records from January of 2023 when the government asserts Diddy and Jane hosted 3 entertainers during a hotel night in L.A. Combs sent Jane an audio message that said, quote, "Hey, let me know right now if I should book debauchery for 9 o'clock. Yes or no answer." Jane responded, "Yeah, it's a thumb up." She then asked him for money to buy new clothes, the records showed. And Combs sent another audio message that said, "I sent you $15,000, baby girl." The jury then saw flight records for all 3 entertainers. Combs scheduled one of the entertainers through Cowboys for Angels. Jane paid them $1,100 through the Cash App and texted Combs, "Send this as proof of payment." The jury then saw records from the days around October 18th of 2023. Now remember, Jane previously testified she and Diddy had a sobriety party in Beverly Hills around that time. And Joseph Cirillo confirmed this is the summary chart's last entry before Cassie Ventura's November of 2023 civil lawsuit. Cercilio then walked through some of the text messages between Jane and Combs from the days before the sobriety party, which the jury had previously seen. In the messages, Jane said in part she didn't want to be mistreated and, quote, "I don't feel like performing loveless cold sex." And I told you all about that. The jury saw messages indicating Jane went to Combs' L.A. home the next day. In a later conversation, Christina Coram messaged Combs' assistant, Brendan Paul, and other assistants about prepping a hotel room. The jury also saw messages between Combs and an escort for Cowboys and Angels coordinating a time to go to the hotel. Hours later, Combs sent an entertainer named Paul the hotel information. Records showed $3,000 was deposited into an account of the entertainer just shortly after. In the days following the hotel reservation, Jane messaged Combs asking if he could put something in her account, saying she felt, quote, "violated and manipulated." And at that point, the prosecution rested and Tina Garagos picked up with the cross. Garagos goes through a September 2023 invoice from Sean Combs' travel management company, and it listed expenses. It included flights for Jane and the entertainer Sly before the trip to New York. The invoice said various expenses for Sean Combs. Garagos highlighted that the invoice lists Combs personally, not one of his business entities. Cercilio confirmed that many of the incidents listed in the summary chart occurred before April of 2023 when Diddy began paying rent for Jane's new home. Cercilio also confirmed there could have been times that Jane and Combs saw each other that were not included in the summary report. Garagos then addressed a certain time frame, November 8th through the 10th of 2021, that Cercilio had touched on in testimony under direct, and Garagos pointed to some messages that Jane sent during this time frame that were not included in that summary chart. After Combs texted Jane, for example, asking if she wanted to see him and an entertainer called Paul, Jane wrote the following, quote, "She was horny." according to one of the messages that were highlighted by Garagos. Combs then asked her what she wanted to do, telling her to be explicit. Jane then texted him descriptions of sexual interactions she wanted to have with Paul and Combs, according to the exchange that Garagos highlighted. In other texts, Jane sent explicit messages to the entertainer known as Sly and told him she wanted to see him. Garagos then had the jury watch a sexually explicit video clip from November 10th of 2021. The jury then watched several other clips of sexually explicit videos from November to December of 2021, and they totaled more than 5 minutes. The jury was then shown messages between Jane and Sly regarding 2 separate encounters in December of 2021 when Jane asked Sly to join her and Sean Combs. After one encounter, Jane wrote to Sly, quote, "So happy you are such a sweetheart and thank you for making me feel beautiful." In another message, she wrote, quote, "Getting flashbacks," and she followed that up with a drooling emoji. And with that, the jury was dismissed for the day. Now, it seems like a short day, but it really was not. Over an hour of today's testimony was spent viewing videos of freak-offs, which were not shown outside of the jury. Garagos said she had about an hour more of cross-examination for the current witness, Joseph Cercilio, and they did get into mentioning, as I told you at the beginning, they have about 4 hours of closing statements. So this is the last witness. Kind of disappointing to me. I wanted to see Christina Coram on that stand. I think she knows more than anybody. I don't know why the prosecution did not make her take the stand, but they didn't. By Friday, as I said, this shit's going to go to the jury. And sometime next week, we're going to find out if Combs is guilty or innocent of these federal charges. And of course, I'm going to keep you posted, but let me get you caught up real quick on this trial. Just kind of a rehash of everything we've heard so far. And of course, in that first week, as a matter of fact, the first 2 witnesses called by the prosecution, Israel Flores, a former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel, and Daniel Phillip, who was a male stripper, said he was invited multiple times by Cassie to have sex with her while Mr. Combs watched and masturbated. He said he had overheard Combs beating Cassie in another room and Cassie crying. The third witness of this trial, Cassie Ventura, the case's key witness, began her testimony nearly 9 months pregnant. She cried as she spoke about freak-offs, and to me, her testimony was really the best relative to believability. I think everything she said was honest and the way she felt. Kid Cudi testified in week 2. That was the guy that had the Molotov cocktail thrown onto his Porsche, burn a hole in it. Of course, Diddy threatened to blow up his car, all those sorts of things. Dawn Richard, a singer in 2 groups associated with Sean Combs, she testified that she saw him punch, kick, and slap Cassie, among other things. Carrie Morgan, who had a 17-year friendship with Cassie destroyed by Sean Combs. Remember her testimony. She testified that her and Cassie went to Jamaica and she saw Combs beat the shit out of Cassie, drag her by her hair, and strike her in the head several times. David James, a former assistant to Sean Combs, testified about Diddy's drug use mainly, and also told about that possible confrontation that never happened with Suge Knight. George Kaplan, another former assistant, said he left his job because he was not comfortable with the physical behavior that had been going on between Cassie and Sean Combs. And even Regina Ventura, Cassie Ventura's mother, testified, discussing the $20,000 she was forced to wire Diddy that he eventually wired back because of the threats that he was going to release a sex tape. Sheree Hayes testified, of course, that was the escort known as the Punisher, and he was hired for 8 to 12 freak-offs. He said he was paid $2,000 at the time. After his testimony, Gerard Gannon, an agent with Homeland Security, he testified about that 2024 raid on the Miami Beach, Florida luxury estate that was owned by Combs. Capricorn Clark testified. Of course, she was a longtime employee of Diddy's who started out as a personal assistant and ended up becoming a brand director for one of Combs' largest brands. She testified that she also witnessed a lot of abuse with Sean Combs, especially as it related to Cassie. Deontay Nash, probably the most personable of all the people that took the stand, worked as a stylist for both Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura. He testified about the beatings that he witnessed, some physical altercations he got into personally with Sean Combs. And then after that, Mia testified. Of course, Mia was a pseudonym, said she had worked for Mr. Combs for 8 years in various capacities. She said that Combs forced her to perform oral sex with him and then raped her at one point. And she testified a while. It was 3 days worth of testimony for Mia. Eddie Garcia, a security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel, he had some interesting testimony. Remember, Eddie, my angel, was what Sean Combs referred to him as. Of course, he was the one that was paid $100,000 in a brown paper bag to make that surveillance video that never went away, thank God. Derek Ferguson, a former CFO of Bad Boy Entertainment, also testified about some financial aspects of Diddy's companies. Brianna Bungalan, who was a friend of Cassie's, she testified about Combs holding her over a 17th floor apartment balcony, if you'll remember. Of course, Jane testified, and I would classify her as the second most critical witness in the trial. She dated Combs from 2021 until his arrest, described kind of an intense love affair with him, turned into a pattern of what she termed as unwanted sex with male prostitutes. And as I've said before, I feel like she was a mistake to put on that stand. Andre Lamont, another Homeland Security investigator, he detailed the guns, the drugs, etc. that he found in Combs' L.A. area mansion during a raid. Jonathan Perez, a former personal assistant for Combs, he testified about setting up those wild king nights. Brendan Paul testified, another former assistant to Combs, about getting drugs for Combs, setting up wild king nights. And of course, Cesario, the last guy to testify, who will end his testimony, it looks like, tomorrow. So we'll see. That's it. That's all I got for you. That was just a quick, super quick catch up of what occurred during this whole trial. And it's all come down to this. Thank you so much for your patience, for listening. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/exposed podcast files. We've got commercial free early releases, bonus episodes, quarterly gifts for top tier Patreon supporters, and so much more. Check that out. And until next time, for Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.